This here is the Mercedes-Maybach GLS 600. It costs a cool 3.3 crores and there's nothing stopping you from adding another 1.5 crores in options. Which begs the question, why is it so expensive when it shares a name, GLS, with an SUV that costs half its price? Which brings me to this video. Welcome to Evo India and welcome to our video where we try to understand whether the GLS 600 is justified in price over the standard GLS. Luxury, it is in the details and Maybach knows that better than anyone else. But before we go to dissecting the price of this bad boy, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Evo India channel if you haven't already. What are you doing? And leave a comment down below. Mercedes-Maybach GLS or Range Rover, what would be your pick? Let's start with the outsides and try to answer the question whether this is worth the money over the standard GLS in just the way it looks. On the outside, I think it looks like a GLS. It's very similar to one, but it looks more grown up, more mature. You know how when men get older, they start grooming themselves better, dressing better, combing their hair, doing their beard. Now, I don't know much about combing my hair, but the GLS, it certainly looks a lot more stately, a lot more mature. You've got this large, imposing chrome grille up front, more chrome down below. It's got this stately face about it. But the only thing I don't like are these Maybach logos down here. This side is a vent, that side is all plastic, and it almost looks like this stately, well-dressed gentleman is now put on a LV shirt with LV badges everywhere. It just looks a little gaudy in my opinion. Headlamps, you've got these three distinct elements inside them. They look very distinct on the road, and on the side it looks typical GLS. You know, you've got your body colored cladding over here. You've got 22-inch wheels as standard. These are the standard wheels, but you can option 23-inch monoblocks on them. The shape, very distinctly GLS. Something that's different from the standard GLS are the footboards. When you open the door, these footboards glide out so you can step in and then they glide back in once you're done. You've got more Maybach badges over here. This one I don't mind. This one looks pretty good. And at the back, again, very similar to the GLS. You can obviously draw a line between that family and this one, but you've got more Maybach badges, the GLS 600 badge, more chrome, and it's a very imposing look. When you see one of these on the road, it commands respect. You take notice. It will grab eyeballs, and that's what you want for all the money you're spending on it. Step inside the Maybach GLS 600 and this is where it's supposed to feel a lot more special than the regular GLS. Now the question is, does it? For starters, architecturally it remains the same. So you still get your massive twin screens up front, 4 AC vents below them, the controls here, and the trackpad and controls over here. So architecturally nothing has changed, but when you get into the details, you get into the nitty-gritties, you realize how elevated this cabin is compared to the standard GLSs. Your dials, they have a specific Maybach graphic with Maybach logos on each dial and then a lot of Maybach logos on the center as well. You've got more Maybach logos on the center palm rest and even on both of the pedals, and those actually look very nice and rich. The materials used, extremely nice. You've got this open pore wood that's used all over the dash. You've got soft touch leather everywhere. It's this reddish burgundy leather up over here and this cream leather with burgundy stitching down below. It really feels super expensive. You've got some very intelligent touches as well. You've got the suede, or is it Alcantara, top lining, and even the sun blinds are coated in them. And the sun blinds, you can actually pull one out here, put one out here, and then you're not constantly adjusting them every time you're moving or changing direction. They take care of that for you. Welcome to the backseat of the Mercedes-Maybach GLS. This is where you really feel like all of the money you've spent is worth it. This is the first class seating option. It's not standard, you get a regular bench as standard, but with this option you get these two incredibly comfortable seats with this massive center tunnel in the middle separating you two and packing a lot of features in. For starters, you get this tablet in here that controls a lot of what the car can do. So you can control your heating and cooling for the seats, you can control your massage functions, the navigation, your phone, radio, audio, the works. Basically, almost everything that you can do on the infotainment screen, you can control from the back seat on this panel. You've got a wireless phone charger here, so you can place your phone and charge it on the go, not miss another notification. You've got HDMI ports down here, and below this panel, you've got temperature control cup holders, so you can heat up or cool your drinks, and you've got a large suede lined storage space in there. And if that wasn't all, you can lift this up. You've got proper tray tables in here. You want to work on the go, eat on the go, you're the boss, you decide. You've got a panel in here which you can open, and there's a refrigerator in here for your beer or your champagne if beer's too mainstream. And the material selection, you know, that is spot on. You've got the same wood finishes as the dash. The Burmester speakers are finished exquisitely. Even the tray table has this beautiful satin finish and a rubberized finish on top, so whatever you place on there doesn't slide around. Everything feels top class. Even the carpets, they're soft and cushy, and they almost make you want to take your shoes off and just sit in here barefoot, but it's too undignified for a video today, but I'm not going to do that. But what I mean to say is this place just cocoons you in absolute luxury. This is where the GLS feels not one, but two steps up on the regular GLS. Now, getting into the driver's seat, how different is this Maybach GLS to drive compared to the standard GLS? Very. It is very, very different. Now, I don't know how many Maybach owners are actually going to spend time in this seat, but I think it's worth talking about. Starting with the engine. You get a 4-litre V8 up front. This engine, in this particular car, it's not a sporty engine. It's not an outright sporty engine. It's not super hard-edged like an AMG engine. What it is it gives the Maybach a sense of effortlessness. It will hustle. It really does move. I think it does 0 to 100 in some 5.4 seconds or something just as ridiculous as that. So it is fast, but more than that, it's effortless. You know, the way it picks up speed, the way that you just have to feather the throttle to go from 80 to 120 kilometers an hour. It doesn't ask for much in terms of inputs to get solid acceleration out of it. And I think that's one of the defining characteristics of these big luxury cars like the Maybach. It's the effortlessness with which they pick up speed and they hold speed. You're barely tickling the engine, you know, it's sitting at a 1,500, 2,000 RPM doing peaceful 110 kilometers an hour in 9th gear. It's absolutely effortless. And then step on it, in a snap it's down to 4th gear and you're picking up speed for an overtake. You know, the gearbox, it may be an automatic, but the gearbox, it's snappy, it's quick, but more importantly, it's smooth and it just feels so refined. It also sounds quite nice, you know, there's like a light grumble when you really step on it. At low revs, it's absolutely silent. You can't hear anything in the cabin, just a hint of wind noise from the mirrors. But apart from that, when you step on it, it really sounds nice. There's this low, deep woofle that comes from the exhaust, and it just adds to that experience of luxury, because you know that the power plant underneath the hood is really special. Fuel economy, do you really care about fuel economy in a Maybach? I don't think anybody who buys a Maybach cares about fuel economy, so I'm not even going to bother answering that question. And what I like the most is that it gives this big, large SUV that effortless character, but it gives it character as well. This is not EV sterile. There is a V8 under there. There is the ebb and flow of torque curves and power curves, and it has character to it, which I absolutely love. Now, the chassis, that's something else that's worth talking about, because that's where this is very, very different from the standard GLS. The standard GLS gets air springs as standard, all well and good. This gets e-active body control, and what that basically does is it allows the chassis to control each corner individually. So That's what allows it to do the bouncy bounce, because each damper has an individual motor that pumps in fluid and can control the damper individually. You can also, in the off-road modes, just select which damper you want raised up, down when you're off-roading. That could come of use, but nobody's really going off-roading with these Maybachs, are they? Where the suspension system really helps is on-road comfort and dynamics. The GLS, the standard GLS, it's comfortable, but it's a fairly stiff car. It's not the most comfortable in its class. It is firm, and most importantly, you do feel its weight a lot. When you're going through potholes, when you're trying to steer it around corners, the weight of the GLS is always very apparent. This, it's like magic. They call it e-active body control. They should call it e-magic body control, because it really just takes out so much of that feeling of weight from the car. This is probably a heavier car with all the equipment it comes packing, with a larger engine as well, but it just feels effortless. So ride quality, it has this effortless wafting that it does over highways. It feels supremely comfortable. It just irons out everything from underneath you. If the roads deteriorate and it gets bad, it still has a sense that it is floating above the road and it's cushioning you from everything that's going on underneath. This has 22-inch wheels. 22-inch wheels are not built for comfort, but somehow the GLS Maybach manages to dial in comfort into the body. It just soaks up everything beautifully, and you really feel like you are in a luxury car deserving of the Maybach badge. This is not some compromised ride quality because the car is so tall and you've had to stiffen up the springs, nothing like that. This feels properly comfortable. But I think the biggest advantage that this system gives you is the handling, because it has something called curve mode, and even the last generation S-Class Maybach had it. And what it allows you to do is, when you get into a corner, like a motorcycle, it would lean into the corner and keep the body flat, counteracting the natural roll of the car. You can't see it from where you are, but I can feel it. It just hunkers down into a corner instead of going the other way. It's very unnatural, but it keeps the body flat inside. Instead of chucking you and making it feel like it's rolling, it actually actively counteracts that, which is an unbelievable feeling. Porsche does it too. The new Panamera has this sort of trick suspension, but Mercedes-Benz did it first. And it's not as advanced, I would say, as the Porsche suspension, because it doesn't do so much for dive and pitch. But that one really counteracts dive and pitch as well. But in the corners, this really makes a difference, and it actually keeps the occupants a lot more comfortable on the inside. Funnily enough, speaking of drive modes, curve mode is just one trick. It also has a Maybach mode. And what Maybach mode does is it takes comfort mode and dials it up 10 times. So it smoothens out everything. The gear shifts are ultra slick. It starts off in second gear, so there's no jerkiness in first and between first and second. This engine has enough torque, so that's not an issue anyway. And the ride quality, it just slackens up beautifully, and it wafts over everything with such gait. It's really beautiful. It feels kind of quieter too. I don't know if they do anything with ANC, active noise cancelling, but it suddenly feels like a lot more hush inside the cabin. And Maybach mode is the mode to be in if you've got somebody important in the back seat. But if you're in here and you want to enjoy the drive, go into sport, go into curve, and you will have a good time. We started out this video with a very simple question. Does the Maybach GLS feel more special? Does it feel worth the money over the standard GLS? And I have a very simple answer to that, and the answer is yes. It feels special in so many ways. It may not look radically different to the standard GLS, but the way it drives, that V8 engine, the character that it has, the way it puts down its power, the ride and handling of this e-active suspension is another level, and that back seat, that really takes the cake. So yes, the GLS, it feels incredibly special, and it feels incredibly different from the standard GLS. And the best part is, when you really want to make an entrance, you just got to hit that bounce button and bounce away.